using our Forex early system. Okay, so there's two instruments in particular. So the currencies themselves, and then also gold as well. Now, what you've got in front of you here is the heat map that we use. This heat map is only available to our subscribers. So if you're interested in becoming a subscriber with us, this is what you would have. This is one of the many tools that you'd have access to. Okay, and I want to use this because I think it just gives a really nice clear snapshot in terms of what we actually trade with our system. So you'll see quite clearly that we've got two columns. So we've got the Asian session and the European American session. I think the first thing to make really clear is time zones. All right, there's no set times for our trading system. You can use Intel for the Asian session to help support your trades, and also Intel again for the European and American session. And some of you probably normally would refer to that as the main session as well. Now, I'm based in the UK, so for somebody like myself, the Asian session means the middle of the night. Okay, it means during the night. So I don't tend to enter trades in the evening. I've let trades run on during the night, particularly for long-term trades. Yeah. And when long-term trends are clearly evident, but I don't necessarily look to do my entries. I tend to do them predominantly in the main session. Okay, so, but having said that, the option's there. Okay, I don't personally for practicality reasons, but perhaps you're somebody who can. All right, maybe you're a shift worker and this is something you can actually do. So the opportunity is there to trade the full 24-hour day. Okay, so first of all, there's timing. Now moving on to the actual instruments themselves. So we have 7 currency groups. Okay, so we have the US dollar, the Swiss franc, the euro, the Japanese yen, pound, the Australian dollar, the Canadian dollar, and then the New Zealand dollar as well. So you've got all those currency groups, and then within them you then have the currency pair. So if I just quickly run down the options here, you know, if we look at the American dollar, you've got euro dollar, pound dollar, Australian dollar, the New Zealand dollar to trade against the American dollar, and then you've got the American dollar, which can be traded against the Swiss franc, the yen, and the CAD. All right, you sort of get the idea. That's then repeated for each currency group. If we look at the yen, you can see here clearly you've got the yen there on the right hand side, and you've got the various currency options there as well. So these are all the different pairs that are available to you as a trader. Now, some of you may already be trading, okay, but you may just be confining yourself to particular pairs. Why not open that up? All right, why not open that scope up, that potential up? If you're already refining your skills or you're looking to refine your skills, you don't need to just pigeonhole yourself into a few pairs, all right? Typically, you'll find that tends to be euro dollar, euro pound. Some of you may do the odd yen pair, but actually the scope and the potential here is a lot more. Okay, there's a lot more that can be done when you look at the forex pairs. In addition to that, we've got gold. Okay, so you can then trade gold against a currency pair as well. So we've got the gold here at the bottom, but if we just look at the top row there, you've got gold dollar. All right, clearly that's a trade that's on the up. In fact, why not look at that as on the charts? Yeah, see that uptrend there. All right, so pretty evident. So that's also an option available to you as well, which then adds further pairs and further instruments for you to potentially trade. So if you've refined the skill, right, if you've done the education, you've got the great mindset and discipline, why leave money on the table? Okay, why not branch out and go beyond your own comfort zone, really, and consider further pairs. Now, this analysis is always available to subscribers, as mentioned, so you would very easily get a feel for the different pairs and also the different behaviours as well of the currency groups. So now we're going to move on to the why. We've talked about what we trade. Now we're here to give you a bit of an insight into why we trade the pairs and the currency groups that we do. Okay, so number one, I think it's really, really important that we understand price, okay, the 1% rule, okay, recognize that different currency groups and pairs are going to have very different market behaviours and characteristics as well. And I think once we recognise that, it really sort of puts into place the availability, you know, the opportunities for the different trading pairs that are there for you, okay? You know, we're not just looking at euro dollar or pound dollar and euro pound and you know, and sort of not getting anywhere in our trading journey, okay? Let's start to go beyond those pairs and start to consider other currency groups that could actually be quite lucrative for us and help you to become a successful and profitable trader. Okay, so to start with, we need to understand that for our trading system, there is really only one thing that we concentrate on, and that is price. You will notice, yeah, I'm just going to jump onto our charts. Let me just go to a 5 minute for the sake of this. You will notice if you're a subscriber with us, or even if you are a follower of our socials, you will quickly see that our charts are always stripped back. There's not masses of different indicators and shapes and colours and all of that going on. You don't need any of that. You need to just know two things: the direction, uptrend, ranging or neutral, or downtrend. And there's only one thing that's moving that, and that is price. It's still no different to, you know, when you go on holiday. Some of you may still exchange cash. Yeah, you know, you're making that transaction. It's based on the spot price at the time. Yeah, whether you're buying or selling. End of. It's no different for your online transaction. This is what this is. If you strip it back and look at, well, what actually is it? It's just that. It's an online transaction. Yeah, of currencies. All right, so we're looking at entry, we're staying in it for some time, yeah, and what's the price when we close that trade? Yeah, so price is key, it's important, it's the only real indicator that we use, and it's in the form of our heat map. Okay, now again, this is only available to subscribers, so if it's something that you feel, you know, could really transform your trading, you know, like I say, it has done for mine, you know, then by all means join us. So for the price, this is where these percentages kick in for us. Okay, it's showing us that percentage of change. That's great, but why would that matter? Well, this is where it comes into play. This is where the 1% rule is very important. So let's just pick out a pair. Let's take a look here. Let's just look at this top one here. Euro dollar. All right. We've got a percentage change of 37%. All right. And this is clearly in some form of an uptrend. All right. So green uptrend, red downtrend. All right. So clearly in some form of an uptrend. Obviously, the greater the percentage, the steeper that trend you expect to be. If it's low percentages, then clearly, you know, there's not been a lot of movement, has this? If you look at Swiss yen, by example, that's not really going to show much because that percentage is just too small. You look at euro, dollar, pound, dollar, you know, there's a bit more going on. All right, so that's the price change. Now, let's say it had been a price change of 1%. Okay. So let's say it's actually gone up, you know, during the course of the day, and it's actually gone up to 1%. That then means that on the chart, yeah, I'm actually going to bring up the quotation board as well. If price has moved by 1%, if it's showing there on the heat map, yeah, that then means that it's moved by 111 pips. Okay. So from when that session started, European session, it's moved by that number of pips, 111. That's quite a chunk of pips. Okay. Now, others are not so volatile. Let's go to New Zealand dollar. Now, New Zealand dollar, what is it on at the moment? Okay, so it's just 63%, all right? Still got some way to go. If that moves on up and it goes all the way to 1%, okay, you're talking just 62 pips. So it's almost half of what we saw with euro dollar. Okay, it's not as volatile. It doesn't move as quickly. It's not going to give you as much in terms of pip return. However, just because it's more conservative doesn't mean you ought to dismiss it, because it's less painful on reversals. Okay, so there's benefits and constraints with all the pairs, you know, depending on their level of volatility. So you need to understand this. You need to be considering these percentages, okay, because they then speak to the amount of movement, the amount of market movement. It starts to all give you more insights, okay? So if we look at this quotation board here, let's just have a look at that. Yeah, you can see some of, I mean, look at that. Dollar yen, 143. Yeah, a 1% move, 143 pips. Let's go down to New Zealand and the Swiss franc, way more conservative, 52. So that's almost a third of what we saw with dollar yen. So do you see how these different rates of volatility are really going to shape up and make a difference depending on what pair you're trading at the time? Now, that doesn't mean you just jump into anything, but it will give you an idea of what to expect. Now, like I say, some more conservative than others. I mean, look at the pound New Zealand. All right, look at that. Yeah, I mean, we've just had the interest rate decision this morning. Let's measure that candle. I mean, I say this morning, but you know, at midday. That's almost an 80 pip candle. Yeah. Wow. Now, a 1% change for the pound New Zealand, something which I know not many of you would even consider as a currency pair, 212 pips. Okay. So this is why volatility is really important. It starts to give you a feel of how our currency groups behave. What can we expect? So when you're looking at our heat map, it's going to start to mean a little bit more. It's more than just red and green. Okay, those percentages are going to mean something. If you're looking at, say, the yen pairs, which hopefully you've grasped now are very volatile, and you're seeing big percentages, you know there's been quite a bit of market movement. You're going to expect to see some changes on those charts, okay? Contrast, Swiss franc, you know, a bit more conservative in that respect. Yeah, you might see some you know, movement, but it's just not going to be the same. However, the reversals are less severe, okay? So, you know, it all stacks up. Depending on which currency group you're looking at, yeah, looking for that real strength, looking for that real weakness, you might then decide to trade that against gold. Okay, so don't forget you've also got that option as well. Another thing, you know, so as well as what's happening on the day, and you know that we're all about long-term analysis and long-term trades, yeah. So if I look, if I look here at, so this is the 4-hour chart for the euro dollar, it's choppy. It's a lot more choppy. Let's compare that to something else, something that I know not a lot of you would even consider trading. Let's look at this one. Nice and smooth uptrend. Yeah. Would, you know, many of you consider trading the yen pairs beyond the American dollar? Nice uptrend there. Let's check out all of them, in fact. New Zealand yen. Again, nice uptrend on the 4-hour. Swiss. Yeah, looking a bit neutral now though. Uptrend. Pound yen, uptrend. All right. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much a slingshot for the yens, but you get the idea. Okay, let's start to think a bit more deeply about these currency pairs. Let's start to go beyond maybe the initial few that you're used to trading. Let's not leave money on the table, because at the core of all of this, it's that we all be profitable and successful traders. So there's two other elements that we want to talk through before we close out today's session. The first one is considering the trading instruments within their currency group. So we've talked at length about price, but what we also want you to get into the habit in terms of thought and thinking and even application is to not look at the instruments just as unique pairs, but to consider them within their wider currency group. So what that means is to not just look at, say, euro dollar in isolation, but to actually consider what's going on with all the dollar pairs and what's actually going on with all the euro pairs as well. So from this chart, you can see here, we've got dollar weakness, okay, we've got yen strength, and we've also got some gold strength here as well against the currencies. And we want to just quickly observe how that plays out on the chart. Here we've got the yen dailies, okay, and you can quickly see here we've got potential yen weakness there as a long-term trend. So really start to get into that habit of thinking about the trading instruments within their collective currency groups. Of course, if you're a subscriber with us, it helps because you will have access to this heat map. So you will have the advantage there, but a really important thing to consider in terms of your trading success. Okay, so let's not look at these instruments in isolation. All right. The second thing we really want you to take on board is considering the wider economic aspects as well. So time of recording for this is Thursday the 19th of September 2024, and only yesterday we had the US interest rate decision. Okay, so if I just take a look at one of the charts, so I'm going to actually look at gold dollar, and there's a reason why I'm choosing this chart over the others. Of course, you can see that choppiness there. So that interest rate cut's been made, I think it was 0.5%, and it's then resulted in some really big candles there going on, highly choppy. Okay, so you wouldn't even consider entering in something like this. But what's really crucial, and I've marked it out here, is where price reached at that point, and it reached all the way up there. Okay, you can see that highlighted there on the charts in terms of the price point. Okay, now this is record breaking. I'm going to actually go to a higher time frame, so let me just go to a monthly. You can see where I've marked where price reached yesterday, and it is record breaking. Look at that. I've gone all the way back to 1998. Okay, price has never reached anywhere near that before. All right, so really one to watch and to consider moving forward in terms of the outputs of gold in the coming days and weeks. But I think what's also, you know, super significant is the fact that just how much the economic news, all right, and decisions that are made will really drive and move the markets as well. They're not operating in isolation. So just how we talk about the pairs not working in isolation, that we've got to look at the wider currency groups, it's no different for the markets and news and any other economic decisions that are coming out and activity as well. Another great correlation that I can show you is the S&P 500, also known as the US 500. Okay, let's take a look at that. I'm going to just switch on over to a daily chart there. And as you can see, we've got that steady uptrend. All right, we've then got quite a choppy downtrend take place, and what I would describe as the wonky W. Okay, now if you read charts a lot, you'll be familiar with such patterns, yeah? But let's go on over to the yen. Again, I'm still on a daily chart, and you can see that formation, right? You can see that consistency there. Yes, you're going to have some individual differences between the currencies, but you can see that consistency play out, all right? So that's the yen correlation with the S&P 500. So really crucial that we take that on board, and that we're aware of those economic news and drivers as well. We will be covering both the currency analysis in terms of the groups in further detail in a future lesson, and the same for also news as well. So we will touch on that further to do more of a deep dive, but I think it's important given that we discussed currency so much, for you to just have a more holistic overview for the different elements that you need to consider as we move forward. Now, as I've alluded, future lessons are going to be on their way, so do stick with us. If you like what you're hearing, if the heat map and our other tools are of interest to you, then definitely head on to our website, which is forexearly.com. Do follow our socials if you like the educational content that we're providing, so be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you at our next lesson. Bye for now.